You know what's wild? While most people were opening presents and eating Christmas dinner with their families, Diddy was locked up at Fort Dix Federal Prison in New Jersey. But he wasn't completely alone on Christmas Day. His son, Justin Combs, made the trip out to see his father behind bars, and honestly, this visit meant everything to both of them. So Justin Combs, Diddy's oldest son, who's 31 years old now, showed up at Fort Dix on December 25th, 2025 for a Christmas visit with his pops. This wasn't some quick 5-minute conversation either. The visit lasted a full 90 minutes, which is pretty much the maximum time allowed for prison visits. Justin and Diddy sat across from each other in that visitation room and had some real deep conversations about life, about the struggles they're both going through, and about what the future might look like. Now, here's something important to understand. Prison visits aren't like regular family gatherings. There's no exchanging gifts, no Christmas decorations, no holiday meal together. The rules are strict at Fort Dix, and inmates can't receive any physical items during visits. So even though it was Christmas Day, Justin couldn't bring his father anything. No presents, no food, nothing. Just his presence and his time. And according to Diddy's publicist, Judah Engelmeyer, who spoke about the visit, that presence meant absolutely everything. Engelmeyer said it meant a great deal to Diddy, particularly on Christmas, to have family close. Think about that for a second. This is Sean Combs, a man who used to throw the most extravagant parties in the industry. Private jets, champagne flowing, celebrities everywhere, living that ultra luxury lifestyle. And now his Christmas consisted of a 90-minute visit in a prison facility where he couldn't even receive a simple gift from his own son. The contrast is absolutely striking. Just a year ago, Diddy was probably planning some massive holiday celebration, and now he's sitting in a visitation room at a federal prison trying to make the most of the limited time he gets with his family. Justin made this trip knowing how much it would mean to his father. Fort Dix is located in New Jersey, and depending on where you're coming from, getting there on Christmas Day isn't exactly convenient. Most people are at home with their families, relaxing, celebrating, but Justin prioritized being there for his dad during what has to be one of the hardest times in Diddy's life. That says a lot about their relationship and about Justin's character. The timing of this visit is significant too. This was Diddy's first Christmas behind bars as a convicted felon. The reality of his situation is probably hitting different now. The holidays have a way of making you reflect on your life, on your choices, on where you're at versus where you thought you'd be. And for Diddy, spending Christmas in prison has got to be a massive reality check. Having Justin there provided some comfort during what must have been an incredibly difficult day. When you look at this visit beyond the headlines, one thing becomes clear. This wasn't just a Christmas trip to a federal prison. This was a moment that says something about the relationship between Justin Combs and his father Diddy, and how that relationship is being tested, reshaped, and maybe even repaired during this chapter of their lives. Justin has always been a visible part of Diddy's world, from childhood photos at events to standing next to him during big moments in the industry. But visibility and closeness aren't always the same thing. Over the years, there have been moments where the public wondered how strong that bond really was. Fame, pressure, lifestyle changes, expectations, none of that makes a father-son relationship simple, especially not in a world where every step is watched, criticized, and archived on the internet. That's exactly why this visit stands out, because Justin didn't just post support online or release a statement. He showed up physically on a holiday, in a prison, when most people wouldn't. That alone puts weight on the moment. For Diddy, this visit isn't happening in a vacuum. He's not at home, he's not on tour, he's not running businesses. He's inside Fort Dix facing the reality of his situation. And when someone chooses to walk into that environment willingly, it changes the emotional equation. It turns support from a word into an action, and actions always speak louder. What people forget is that Justin grew up inside a world built by Diddy, a world of opportunity, pressure, privilege, expectations, and heavy shadows. Being Diddy's son has benefits, sure, but it also comes with a target on your back. Every mistake, every move, every headline is magnified. So when Justin sits across from his father for 90 minutes on Christmas, it isn't just personal. It's a moment where two lives that have always been connected finally sit in the same reality, without cameras, without luxury, without a crowd. And there's a message in that. Sometimes family doesn't fix the situation, but it reminds you that you're not facing it alone. For Diddy, this is the first major holiday he spent behind bars. There's no escaping the symbolism. Holidays force reflection. They make you think about what mattered, what went wrong, and what still might be worth saving. Justin's visit doesn't erase the past, it doesn't change the charges, and it doesn't fix the future. But it adds a human element to a moment that could easily feel dehumanizing. From the outside looking in, people will always split into two groups. Some will call this loyalty, others will call it damage control. That's inevitable. This is Diddy. Opinions will always be divided. But when you strip the conversation down to its core, you're left with something simple. On Christmas Day, Justin Combs walked into Fort Dix to sit with his father. Not to defend him, not to excuse anything, not to make a statement, just to be there. And sometimes being there is the whole point. That's the family side of this story. And it matters more than the headline suggests. When people hear federal prison, they often imagine generic TV or movie depictions, cold hallways, intimidating guards, blank walls. But the reality of daily life inside a place like Fort Dix is more nuanced and structured, especially for those who are there long term. Fort Dix is a medium security federal institution, and although that label might not sound dramatic on paper, it sets a very specific routine. Inmates have schedules, wake-up calls, meal times, limited recreation, and strict visitation windows. Days aren't filled with excitement, spontaneity, or choice. There's a rhythm, but it's not one most people would find comforting or familiar. For someone like Diddy, who spent much of his life surrounded by control, whether business decisions or creative direction, this environment represents a stark contrast. Instead of choosing where to go or what to do next, now he's living by a timetable set by others, a pace dictated by rules rather than personal decisions. On top of that, holidays inside don't work like they do outside. Christmas Day at Fort Dix didn't mean lights, decorations, or special events. Even if someone asked the administration for a small symbolic celebration, the answer would be the same. Rules are rules. No special meals, no gatherings that resemble a holiday party, just another day in the facility's scheduled routine. That's why when Justin walked through those doors on Christmas, it wasn't like entering someone's living room. It was stepping into a world where time itself feels different, a place where minutes are counted and every movement is tracked, where even connection with the outside world gets filtered through glass partitions and limited talking hours. Residents inside Fort Dix still form relationships. They, still talk and share moments, but these moments happen in a controlled space. There's no escaping the presence of correctional officers, security protocols, and structured schedules. A 90-minute visit, no matter how full it feels emotionally, still has a start time and an end time. When the clock says it's over, the visiting chairs are cleared and the doors close. That's the daily context in which this Christmas visit took place. So when we think about Diddy's situation, it's not just he spent Christmas in jail. It's that he spent it in a place where the holiday didn't slow down the clock, didn't soften the routine, room for any real sense of celebration. The day was still a day in Fort Dix, marked by schedules and restrictions. In that context, the environment itself is critical to understanding what this visit really meant, not because it was bleak, but because it was ordinary. Everyday life inside prison is often quiet, predictable, and devoid of the kinds of freedoms people take for granted. That's the reality Diddy was facing on that Christmas morning, a reality that makes the presence of a son who chose to come all the more significant. From the outside, this Christmas visit didn't just stay inside Fort Dix. The moment people found out Justin spent 90 minutes with his father on a holiday, the conversation immediately moved to the public stage. Headlines, comment sections, social feeds, and honestly, the reactions say a lot about how divided things are right now. Some news outlets treated it like a normal human moment, a son visiting his father during a tough time. They focused on the emotional side, the family angle. And if we're being real, you can understand why. Seeing family show up on a day like Christmas does hit differently, especially when everything else in your life is stripped down to rules and schedules. But not everyone read it that way. A noticeable group looked at the timing and said, wait, why Christmas exactly now? Not accusing, not inventing theories, just raising an eyebrow. And I get that reaction too. You hear Christmas visit in the middle of everything going on, and it naturally makes people wonder. It doesn't mean there's a hidden plan, but it does mean people are paying attention to detail. That's where the divide happens. One side calls it loyalty and support. The other sees it as something that shifts public perception. Even if unintentionally, neither side is completely right or wrong. They're just seeing the same moment from different angles. And maybe that's the most honest takeaway here. Because with someone like Diddy, a public figure this big, even normal moments stop being normal. Everything becomes a conversation piece, even something as personal as a holiday visit. What stands out to me, and maybe to others, is that this moment doesn't feel loud or staged. It feels quiet. Almost too quiet for the level of attention surrounding it, and sometimes sessuslik belabor massage give ogle a bilior. So when people talk about this, they're not just reacting to what happened. They're reacting to how it looks, when it happened, and what it might mean moving forward. That's the public's role in the story now, not deciding the truth, but responding to the moment. The Christmas visit stands out not just because it happened, but because of when it happened. While Justin was with his father for 90 minutes inside Fort Dix, Diddy's lawyers were pushing a new appeal outside those walls. Two separate events, but the timing naturally makes people look twice. For some viewers, the visit humanized him. He's not completely on his own. Someone still shows up. For others, the timing raised questions. A holiday visit, right when the appeal is filed, that's hard to ignore. Not as a grand theory, not as a scheme. Just a normal reaction to two significant moments landing close together. The appeal argues that the sentence was built on conclusions the jury didn't convict him for, and that the punishment doesn't align with similar cases. Legal experts can debate the details, but the public only needs the headline to understand this. His team is actively fighting to change the direction of the case. And seeing that happen at the same time as a Christmas visit gives the moment a different weight. This doesn't flip the legal outcome. It doesn't erase the conviction, but it does reshape the conversation. Before the visit, people talked about Diddy as someone cut off and isolated. And after the visit, the tone shifted, even slightly, toward there's still a connection. That shift matters not because a visit changes a sentence, but because it changes the energy around the story. Public figures don't just deal with evidence, they deal with perception. And perception reacts to timing as much as facts. So viewers react like humans do. Some see a father and a son. Some see a moment that happens to overlap with legal movement. Most simply register that these two things now sit next to each other in the same timeline. It doesn't mean the visit was designed as strategy. It doesn't mean it was planned around the appeal. It just means timing carries impact. So yes, the visit is personal. Yes, the legal push is official. And now, whether intended or not, the public is reading the two side by side. That's the real takeaway. The situation shifted, not because the facts changed, but because the context did. Outside the prison walls, the reaction to Justin's Christmas visit didn't land quietly. It spread through headlines, group chats, comment sections, podcasts, fan pages, and even among people who don't usually follow celebrity stories. Not because anyone told them what to think, but because the moment was big enough to make people choose a side. Some viewers framed it as a simple truth. A son showed up for his father. No cameras in the room, no staged photo ops, no scripted speeches, just time, just presence. And for those people, that mattered. It reminded them that even with everything surrounding Diddy right now, he's still a human being living a real moment with someone who didn't walk away. They saw a version of him that wasn't defined by a headline or a legal document, but by the fact that someone still sits across from him and calls him dad. But other viewers didn't experience it that way. They saw timing, a Christmas visit happening at the exact moment a new legal appeal is being pushed, a humane moment that coincidentally intersects with a strategic one. And when those worlds collide, people naturally wonder if the moment stays personal or if it becomes part of the narrative outside those walls. They're not shouting accusations, they're not forcing a theory, they're just asking normal questions that anyone would ask when emotional timing and legal timing sit this close together. That's why the reaction feels split. It's not a war, it's not a clash, it's two interpretations growing from the same moment. For some, this visit softens the edges of the story. For others, it sharpens the questions, and for many, it does both at the same time. Media outlets picked up on that tension instantly. Entertainment reporters didn't just recap that Justin visited, they discussed why it mattered that it was Christmas, why the length of the visit stood out, and why it happened right after the funeral. The appeal filing, a few headlines even suggested that the story isn't just about consequences anymore, but about perception, about the gap between who someone is and how someone is viewed. That doesn't turn the visit into a PR move, but it does give the moment weight. Because when a public figure sits in a prison visitation room on the most emotional day of the year, and someone still shows up for them, that becomes part of the conversation, whether they want it or not. And that's where things settle. Inside those walls, a father and a son with 90 minutes that probably went by too fast. Outside those walls, a moment that began to change how people talk about what comes next. Not by shouting, not by proving anything, just by existing at the right moment to make people think. There's no clean conclusion here, no final answer, no, and that solves everything. There's just a shift, a small one, but a real one. Because now when people talk about Diddy, they won't just mention the sentence, the appeal, the court filings, or the headlines. They'll remember Christmas. They'll remember the visit. They'll remember that someone showed up when most people would have stayed home. Maybe that's not a strategy. Maybe it's not redemption. Maybe it's just a start. Or maybe it's the page people look back on when they try to figure out where the story began to turn, even slightly, towards something else. No matter what happens next, this moment is now part of the record, not legally, socially, not officially, publicly, not in paperwork, in memory, and that alone is enough to make this visit matter. So as we step back from all of this, the visit, the appeal, the conversation outside those walls, it comes down to something simple. This isn't the end of Diddy's story. It's not the fix, and it's not the answer. It's just a moment that changed something, even if nobody can fully explain how yet. Christmas came and went, the doors closed, Justin walked out. Diddy stayed behind, but the moment stayed with people. Because for the first time in a long time, the story wasn't just about what he's accused of or what he's fighting in court. It was about someone choosing to show up when it would have been easier not to. And that, more than anything, is what people are still talking about. Whatever happens next, legally, publicly, personally, this visit will be one of the scenes everyone remembers, not because it proves anything, but because it said something, quietly, without trying. A father, a son. A moment that didn't change the whole story, but didn't leave it the same either. Thanks for watching. We'll see where this goes next.